If nothing changed in your relationship for 2 years, would you feel fulfilled and happy? That is the question that I had asked myself that ultimately made me decide to leave my marriage, a nearly 11-year relationship, because I knew that I wanted something different, something better, because that question is really unpacking the truth of your own standards, your worth, the life that you want to create with someone, and also your own values. And when you have to ask yourself and you know that the answer is no, you have to make some hard decisions, because leaving a relationship, whether that is 3 months or 10 years. It is a hard decision, especially when you want to find your partner. You battle with the abandonment issues and feeling like you want to be chosen, that you want to not be lonely. That is a hard, brave choice that takes a lot of courage for us to face the truth, but not only face the truth, but to act on it. And I applied the same question in my new relationship of 7 months, which ultimately also was not the right fit. And there are other signs that can give you more clarity on top of this question that I think it's beneficial for you to keep top of mind. Use your notes app. I use that to help complement my journaling, to keep track of things that are going well, like those memorable moments, but then also times where I feel like my needs weren't met, or times of disagreement, because that just gives you even more data and it puts logic to your decisions, not just an emotionally charged reason. And I have a video that can showcase to you how I leverage the Notes app with my own personal self healing journey. And that provides a little bit more structure for some of the self discoveries that I've been having about learning about myself on a deeper level. And one of the things that I saw in my notes are like, honestly, indicators that really led to the answer of me ending my previous relationships. And really, there are 5 signs that I want to talk about. The first sign is happiness becomes a memory. If you are investing a lot of time kind of reminiscing all the beautiful times and the good moments, and it just feels like there are very few and far between, that's when you have to realize that you're stuck in the past, and your reality is that you haven't had a shared happy moment with that person. And you start to ask yourself why. Like, you start to unpack that. But a lot of times we get so stuck in the past that we are blinded to see the reality of our day to day in the relationship that we're in right now. The second sign is that your needs are getting heard, but they're not being held. Meaning, you're doing your due diligence and your role of communicating and expressing your needs, especially when it comes to your standards. How do you want to receive love? It is important to communicate that. That's part of any relationship that it deserves to thrive and flourish. No one is a mind reader, and you have to get practice with explicitly stating your needs. So, stating your needs and having them be acknowledged or listened by the other partner is beautiful. Okay, you feel heard. But to be seen is that they hold those needs and they are intentional. So if you find yourself that there's like a cycle, you express your needs in a conversation, they get acknowledged. There's a brief change where, okay, now, like for instance, I want to receive flowers and then give you flowers, but then 2 months or 3 months go by and you haven't received flowers, they're back to falling back to what's normal for them. And you bring it up again. So that is like a cycle that continues to happen where your needs were heard, but they're not being intentional and being sustainable and meeting your needs, which leads to the third sign, which is breadcrumbs, where you feel like, okay, like this, he does this, they do that, but we're back to square one in like 3 weeks. Or I feel like when that happens, it creates almost a mindset in me where I question the motive behind some actions, which that might be a little toxic, but I feel like if there is a pattern of me bringing something up and that's the only time that you actually put action and you try to meet my needs, then you're only doing this to pacify me and the situation. So you have to be mindful and pay attention to cycles. And if you feel like that's part of your dynamic, and you feel that that's growing into resentment or disconnect, and you feel like your needs are only heard when you're angry, when you're disappointed, when and not just only in the and only in that stage of your relationship, then that's another sign. The fourth sign is if you're already thinking about the grass is greener on the other side and you start thinking about like, oh, someone else would do this, that is already in the back of your mind. That is a seed that has been planted and it's going to continue growing wild. And you have to be mindful of that because obviously you have to put an effort in a relationship. But if you feel like you've done your due diligence and you had those conversations and you feel like, okay, I can be receiving better treatment by someone else, then that's a sign that your standards are not being met and there isn't much consistency with this person, that you're already looking at what other viable options are out there versus looking and accepting that person because you already know that they may not have the capacity to love you the way that you want to be loved. And then the fifth sign is when you ask yourself, if nothing has changed for 2 years, would I be happy? You know that deep down, this is a misaligned relationship. That means you are not being seen and valued, or you feel like the challenge of your worth is constantly a yo yo. And it is okay to be in the gray area as you figure things out. You give time for sustainable change, growth, and learning each other's like needs and way of expression and love languages. But there's honesty. There's a lot of honesty, and it ties into your standards and your own worth. When you ask yourself that question and the answer is no, it's time to move on.